Discover the incredible, life-changing moment when a poor maid fulfills a dying man's hidden wish. Clara's heart raced as she polished the gleaming trophies lining the Thompson estate's grand living room. Each glittering cup told stories of valor, triumph, and glory. Yet behind each shiny facade was Mr. Thompson, a once-celebrated World War II hero whose laughter faded with every passing day, replaced by a haunting silence that loomed like a dark cloud over the opulent house. Clara could see the weight of unfulfilled dreams etched on his worn face. And in that moment, she wanted nothing more than to bring back the glint in his eye. One afternoon, while dusting a particularly elaborate trophy, Mr. Thompson called her over. "You know," he began, voice heavy with emotion, "I've always wanted to visit the memorial of my fallen friend, James. It's something I never got to do." Clara felt a lump in her throat. Here was a man who had faced the enemy, who had truly lived, and here he was, revealing a vulnerability she never expected. In that moment, something shifted. This wasn't just a task for her anymore. She could make a difference. Her mind raced with possibilities. Fueled by inspiration, Clara decided right then she would honor Mr. Thompson's wish. The very idea sparked a fire deep within her, a longing for purpose beyond cleaning floors. She imagined the memorial, the flag fluttering in the wind, and Mr. Thompson standing there, finally finding closure for his sacrifice. Clara shared her plan with her neighbors after work, her voice a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The reactions ranged from support to skepticism. What can a maid do for a rich man? Some scoffed, shaking their heads. Others, however, rallied together, feeling the pull of imagine a community intertwined by kindness. Despite the whispers of doubt, Clara could feel the strength in the unified voices around her. Like cracks in a foundation, old biases began to show, and Clara saw how much work there was to do, but she held on to hope. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Clara organized fundraisers and inspired neighbors to contribute, the excitement expanded beyond her small apartment. Everyone wanted to be a part of something that symbolized more than just a dying man's wish. It spoke of shared humanity, of a town learning to look at each other without judgment, barriers eroding like the dust of her tired job. Then, amidst the preparations and growing buzz, Clara overheard a whispered conversation. Just a maid, thinking she can change things. The insistent doubt struck her like a physical blow. The moment of unity felt fragile. As she stared at the rows of trophies in the Thompson estate, her determination tightened. Clara realized what was at stake. She wasn't just fulfilling a wish. She was rewriting narratives, battling a deep-rooted legacy of prejudice. But would her courage spark real change, or would it simply be another dream lost? The clock was ticking, and the memorial waited, a powerful symbol of everything they were fighting for. Clara woke up the next morning with the sun streaming through her window, illuminating her small room in the apartment she shared with her younger sister. The aroma of fresh coffee drifted in from the tiny kitchen, but today it felt different. Today was the day she would hold the first community meeting to discuss plans for the memorial trip. Excitement danced in her chest, pushing away yesterday's doubts as she walked to the Thompson estate. Clara couldn't help but notice the chatter around town. People were talking about her, and she could sense a mixture of skepticism and interest. The whispers grew louder as she passed the general store. Just a maid, they muttered. What does she think she can do? Each word cut, but also fueled her determination. Was she merely a maid, or could she be a champion of change? She quickened her pace, heart pounding like a drum, and pushed the thoughts away. Once inside the estate, Clara found Mr. Thompson sitting in his usual chair by the window, sunlight painting gentle lines on his weathered face. A hint of surprise flickered in his eyes as he saw her. "You look different today, Clara," he said, a small smile breaking through the clouds of his grief. "What is on your mind?" "I'm going to host a meeting today," she blurted out, her enthusiasm filling the room. "We're going to plan for the trip to the memorial, Mr. Thompson. It's time to make your wish come true. His eyes widened, glinting with hope. You really think you can make that happen? His voice trembled slightly, revealing just how much this truly meant to him. Yes, Clara replied confidently. We're going to gather support from the entire community. I know they will want to help once they understand. She could feel the pulse of urgency in her chest. All those brave men and women deserve to be remembered, and you deserve to say goodbye to your friend. The afternoon meeting unfolded in a cramped but spirited community hall. Faces filled with curiosity and disbelief soon turned into a chorus of ideas. At the forefront was Clara, passionately painting a picture of Mr. Thompson's journey, his regrets, and his dreams. This isn't just about him, she urged, her voice rising above the chatter. It's about all of us. It's time to honor our heroes, our neighbors who sacrificed everything. Hands began to raise, questions turned into plans, and donations started to flow in. Clara was swept along by the momentum. It felt like a waking dream. But just as the excitement peaked, a familiar voice broke through the euphoria. And what do you get out of this? A woman from the back stood up, surveying the crowd. You're just a maid looking for recognition, aren't you? The room fell silent as if a dam had burst. Clara felt her heart sink. This wasn't about her. She took a breath, forcing the thoughts to the back of her mind. No, she finally spoke, voice steady despite her trembling hands. It's not about me. It's about giving Mr. Thompson the closure he deserves. It's about writing a new story for all of us. Together, we can do this. In that moment, it felt as if Clara had pulled a thread that would weave the entire community together. But doubt lingered still, waiting at the edges of the room. Clara needed to find a way to prove that a maid could indeed lead a mission as the meeting wrapped up with plans blossoming. She caught Mr. Thompson's eye. He nodded, a proud tear sliding down his cheek. Clara left with the warmth of possibility, yet a sense of foreboding gnawed at her. What sacrifices lay ahead? Did she possess the strength to withstand the weight of a legacy? The answer to that question loomed on the horizon like a storm, and Clara felt the winds of change beginning to swell. Would they be enough to carry her through? Clara woke up the next day with a mix of excitement and apprehension fluttering in her stomach. She had spent a restless night replaying the meeting in her mind, those harsh words echoing louder than they should. But today, she had a plan. Today was the day she would approach the local newspaper about covering the memorial trip. If she could get the story out there, maybe the community would rally in support. Grabbing a slice of toast from the kitchen, she waved to her sister, Iris, who was still in her pajamas, eyes pleading for a few extra minutes of sleep. Clara rushed out, her mind racing. She needed to convince the editor of the newspaper to take her proposal seriously. The town square was bustling, the sun shining down brightly, and the familiar sights of the market brought a fleeting sense of comfort. Clara needed that comfort. She trudged towards the small brick building that housed the newspaper office, the weight of her purpose propelling her forward. Once inside, the smell of old pages and ink washed over her, reminding her of how much she loved stories. But today, she was determined to write her own. As she approached the front desk, the receptionist looked up. "Can I help you? I'd like to speak to Mr. Devlin." "Please," Clara said, her voice barely steady. "Do you have an appointment?" The receptionist asked, her tone disinterested. "No, but it's important. It's about a community project." Clara swallowed hard, gripping the edge of the desk. After what felt like a lifetime of hesitation, the receptionist relented and buzzed through to Mr. Devlin. Seconds later, a tall man with thinning hair and a friendly smile walked out. "Clara, was it? What brings you in today?" His voice was warm, inviting her in. Clara took a breath, eager but nervous. "I'm here to talk about a memorial trip for our veterans. I think it could be a good story for the paper." His brow furrowed. "A memorial trip?" he asked, the skepticism creeping in. "And what makes you the person to lead this?" Clara's heart raced as she pushed back against the familiar feeling of being dismissed. "Because I care," she said passionately, her words bubbling forth. "Because it's not just a story. It's about honoring our neighbors who served and sacrificed. I have Mr. Thompson's support, and I know the community will come together if they hear it." Mr. Devlin studied her, his eyes narrowing as he weighed her enthusiasm. "You really believe this?" "Yes," she replied, her voice firm. "And not just for Mr. Thompson, this is for all of us. We can finally give these heroes the recognition they deserve." Silence fell between them for a moment. and Clara held her breath, hoping he could see the truth in her conviction. "All right," he said finally, a spark igniting as he leaned forward in his chair. "Write up a proposal, and I'll see what we can do." Relief washed over Clara as she left the office, her feet barely touching the ground. The taste of hope was sweet, but the doubts still lingered in the back of her mind. What if this wasn't enough? What if Mr. Devlin changed his mind? Days passed, and she worked on her proposal, pouring her heart into the words. With every stroke of her pen, she imagined the faces of the soldiers, their laughter and bravery. But her excitement was met with a chilling reality. The opposition grew. A new wave of skeptics rose up, fueled by fear and misinformation. At the next town hall meeting, Clara stood up once more to present her vision. As she spoke, she noticed the familiar woman from before, her eyes cold and calculating. "You think you can sway everyone with your words?" she shouted. "You're out of your league, Maid." The crowd shifted nervously, and Clara felt the sting of those words again. The warmth of her earlier conviction began to fade, leaving a chilling reminder of her place. But then, she remembered Mr. Thompson's tear, the way he had trusted her completely. Igniting that flicker of determination within herself, she forged ahead. "It's not just about me," Clara said with newfound strength. "It's about our community joining together, to heal, to remember, and to honor." As she finished, a small voice from the back piped up, "I think she's right." Gazes turned to a man who had once served alongside Thompson. The room buzzed with murmurs, possibilities swelling in the air. Clara gripped the podium, fighting off the doubt yet again. Could her words hold enough power to ignite their hearts? The future hung in the balance. Was her vision strong enough against the rising tide of opposition? She braced herself for the fight ahead, a wave of uncertainty crashing against her efforts. Just then, an unexpected visitor stepped into the room, a messenger regarding a possible funding opportunity. Clara's breath caught in her throat as she realized everything could change in an instant. Would her journey take a turn she never anticipated? The room fell silent as the messenger cleared his throat, eyes darting around the crowd before finally settling on Clara. "I'm here on behalf of the Anderson Family Fund. They wish to donate to community projects that honor our veterans. There's potential funding available for your memorial trip if you can present a solid plan." Clara's heart raced. Funding? It was like a blinding spotlight shining upon her trembling frame, illuminating possibilities she'd only dared to dream of. With renewed fire in her belly, she straightened her spine and forced a confident smile. This is incredible," Clara exclaimed, her pulse quickening. But as she scanned the room, she saw the same familiar skeptical faces, still whispering. Could this potential support drive them together or further tear the community apart? "Let us not jump to conclusions," the cold woman interjected, crossing her arms tightly. "Just because you have some funds doesn't mean this plan is best for the town." Clara's heart sank a little. Why was it so hard for some to see the positive? "This is exactly what we need." She shot back, trying to mask the frustration rising within her. "We can build something that truly honors our veterans, not just with money, but with respect, recognition, and love." The murmurs amplified, creating a chaotic symphony of opinions as Clara searched for allies. The man who had spoken earlier stood again. "Look, if there's a chance to make this work, let us hear her out. We can't turn down a chance to support our veterans. It's more than just a proposal, it's a promise to those who sacrificed." His words hung in the air, like a tender note, making a few heads nod in agreement. The icy barrier around them began to crack. "Perhaps," Mr. Devlin interjected, cautious yet intrigued, "if you can present a detailed plan to the committee, addressing the concerns raised today, and how this funding will be used, it might just change minds." Clara felt the weight of his encouragement, but also understood the enormity of the task ahead. "I can do that," she said, her voice steadier than before. "I'll put everything I have into this proposal. It needs to be perfect." She envisioned the proposal in her mind. Images of the veterans' proud faces splashed across the pages. People would read it and see the essence of community. As the meeting wrapped up, Clara felt the electricity of possibility vibrating through her. She left the town hall with her heart pounding, excitement mixed with the weight of responsibility. She wanted so much for this to work. For the veterans, for Mr. Thompson, and for the town. Days turned into nights as she dedicated herself to the proposal. The soft glow of her desk lamp illuminated sheets of paper covered in her dreams and plans. She poured everything into the project while balancing her regular life, often exhausted but fueled by the need to deliver. Just as she was about to finalize her outline, a knock interrupted her quiet solitude. It was Iris, her sister, with lunch in hand. "Don't forget to eat, Clara. You can't fight for the veterans on an empty stomach," she said, smiling but worried. Clara leaned back, grateful for the gentle reminder. As they ate, Iris carefully asked, "What if the town doesn't support this? What if it all falls apart?" Those words hung heavily in the air between them. Clara glanced out the window, watching the wind rustle the trees, fleeting yet powerful, and thought about how far she had come. She hadn't considered failure. But now, that nagging seed of doubt began to sprout. "I don't know, Iris," Clara admitted quietly. "But I have to try. I owe it to them. I just worry," Iris whispered, her brow furrowed. "What if you push too hard? What if the people you're trying to help end up pushing you away?" The thought sliced through Clara like a cold wind, calling into question everything she had worked for. Could her zeal push people away? As she fought to maintain her focus, a knock suddenly echoed through the small room, startling both sisters. This time, it felt more urgent. Clara's stomach dropped as she opened the door. There, standing before her, was Mr. Thompson, his eyes searching, filled with a mix of hope and distress. "I need to talk to you, Clara," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "It's about the memorial trip, something I never got to finish telling you." Clara's heart raced as she sensed that this conversation held the weight of something crucial. What didn't she know about the man who inspired her? Would it change everything she had been fighting for? Clara stood frozen for a moment, her heart pounding against her ribs. Mr. Thompson's expression was heavy with something unspoken, a gravity that pulled her in. She gestured for him to come inside, closing the door behind him with a soft click. The room felt suddenly smaller, charged with anticipation. "Mr. Thompson, what is it?" Clara urged, pulling a chair out for him. She could see the tension in his shoulders as he settled down, his eyes flickering to the papers strewn across her desk. "You seem worried." He took a deep breath, brushing a hand over his graying hair. "You have a good heart, Clara. You care so much about the veterans. I want to support you, but, Clara echoed, feeling dread creep into her chest. He clenched his jaw, his gaze hardening. "There are some things about the memorial trip that you need to understand. When you talk about honoring our veterans, it's more than just plaques and ceremonies. It goes deeper than that." Clara's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" I thought he held up a hand to stop her. "I know what you thought. We all want to honor them, but the real story of our heroes isn't always pretty. There are sacrifices that never made headlines, battles they fought that remained buried, the memories haunting them long after they returned." Clara's pulse quickened. "You mean the veterans Haven shared their stories?" He shook his head. "Many of them are scared to. They don't want to relive the pain. Some think no one would understand. If we're going to honor them right, we need to find a way to bring these stories to light, give them a voice." Her mind buzzed with thoughts. This wasn't just about the funding or the memorial trip. It was about finding a way to lift the veil on their shared history, a chance to heal. "So how do we do this? How can we help them share their truth?" Mr. Thompson leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. "We create a project that involves their voices, documentaries, interviews. We help them tell their stories, maybe even a book. That is how we honor them. They deserve to be remembered for who they are, not just for the battles they fought." Clara felt a spark igniting within her. She could feel a new vision taking root. "This is powerful," she said, excitement surging through her. "We could include that in the proposal. It wouldn't just be about a memorial, it would be about truth and connection." His eyes brightened, a flicker of hope igniting behind the weariness. "Exactly. If we can present this to the townspeople, they may see the importance of the project beyond just funding. It could unite the community in ways we haven't imagined." Clara let his words wash over her, filling the room with possibility. But then a shadow of doubt slipped in. What if they still resist? What if they don't want to hear these stories? "They'll have to listen," he insisted, confidence rising in his tone. "If we make it about them, they can't help but respond. We owe it to our veterans not just to remember them, but to understand them." Inspired, Clara grabbed a pen and paper, ready to jot down Mr. Thompson's ideas as if they were shooting stars. Her heart was racing again. this time in anticipation of the work ahead. But just as she began to write, the door swung open unexpectedly, and Iris stepped in, eyes wide. "Clara, you won't believe it," she paused, taking notice of Mr. Thompson's serious demeanor. "Oh, am I interrupting?" "No, this is perfect timing," Clara said, her mind racing. "We have a new direction for the proposal." Before she could elaborate, Iris turned to Mr. Thompson. "Wait, what did you mean, things that are buried? What stories?" Mr. Thompson swallowed hard, preparing to speak, but hesitating. Clara sensed there was more, something deeper that he wasn't yet ready to share. Could it be tied to his own experiences? Would uncovering these stories bring more than just healing to the veterans, but to him as well? As Mr. Thompson opened his mouth to explain, Clara's heart raced at the thought of what profound revelations might be unveiled. What kind of truth were they about to uncover? Would it push them forward or cast them into an even darker shadow? "Clara," Iris urged softly, breaking the tension that had grown thick in the air. Clara locked her gaze on Mr. Thompson as he began to speak again. This was more than just a project. It was a transformation waiting to happen. Whatever he had to say could change everything. What would unfold next could shape her community forever. Clara held her breath, her heart thumping loudly in the silence. Mr. Thompson cleared his throat, his eyes darting between the two women. He seemed to wrestle with words, the weight of his silence pressing down like a heavy shroud. "I was waiting until I found the right moment to share this," he began, his voice steady but strained. But it's time. He took a deep breath, and Clara felt the gravity of his decision. "Many years ago, I served in a conflict far from here," he continued, his gaze drifting. "I still remember the faces of those who didn't make it back, friends who shared dreams of a brighter future, but never got to see them realized." Clara's chest tightened. She knew this was about more than just words. It was a glimpse into a past he rarely spoke of. As time passed, the things we did, the choices we made, they lingered in the back of my mind, he confessed. "I was one of the lucky ones who came home, yet the scars remain. There was one friend in particular, Alex, who dreamed of seeing the world after the war, to experience the beauty of life again. But he never had the chance." Mr. Thompson's voice broke slightly, and Clara felt tears prick her eyes. "I promised him I would someday tell our story, to honor those who never returned. But life took me in different directions, and I lost sight of that promise. Until now." "Mr. Thompson," Clara whispered, her heart aching. "This is what we need. Your stories can bridge the gap, help others understand the depth of what veterans face." He met Clara's gaze, and she could see the flicker of hope mixed with regret. "But what if no one wants to hear it? What if the pain is too heavy, and I'm just reopening old wounds?" Iris, who had been silently absorbing the exchange, stepped closer. "No, don't think like that. These stories matter. They're part of a tapestry that needs to be woven together. It's about healing, understanding, connection. It's what people need to hear." As they spoke, it became clear this wasn't just about veterans. It was about community, about finding strength in vulnerability. Clara felt it, that spark of a new mission. Something more profound than just a memorial. It was a way to honor every voice that had gone unheard, every story that had remained shrouded in silence. "Then let us do it together," she said, determination filling her voice. "Let us create the project that brings their truth to light. We can honor their sacrifices and transform pain into power." Mr. Thompson nodded slowly, a sense of resolve building in him. "If we find the courage to share these stories, we could spark transformation. Perhaps then, we can heal not only ourselves, but our community." Clara's heart swelled with hope. They were no longer just three people in a room. They had become a team with a purpose. Excitement buzzed through her veins, immediate and electric. "Imagine the conversations we'll have, the connections we'll create," Iris said, grinning at Clara. "This could change everything." But just as the warmth of optimism wrapped around them, a sudden chill swept through the room. Clara's excitement dwindled as an unsettling thought pierced her mind. "What if we uncover truths that some want to stay hidden?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if there are forces that want to silence them again?" Mr. Thompson's brow furrowed. "Then we will need to be ready to fight for their right to be heard." As doubts filled the air, Clara's pulse quickened. They were standing at the brink of something much bigger than themselves. What lay ahead would require bravery, not just from the veterans but from her, Mr. Thompson, and Iris too. The atmosphere thickened with anticipation as they shared a silent agreement. This journey would not be easy. But Clara wondered, could their collective courage be the light that guided them through the darkness? And just before Mr. Thompson could add another thought, the door swung open again, this time revealing a familiar face one Clara had hoped would join them in this endeavor. "Sorry to interrupt," said Judge Hargrove, his expression stormy, "but I think we need to talk about the project and the pushback we're likely to face." Clara's heart sank. What kind of opposition were they about to confront? Would they be strong enough to face it? Clara took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart as Judge Hargrove stepped further into the room, his presence commanding attention. The air felt charged with tension, as if a storm was brewing just outside their conversation. Iris' smile faltered, replaced by concern that mirrored Clara's. "What do you mean by pushback?" Clara asked, her voice shaky. The enthusiasm they had built was like a fragile glass, and she feared it was about to shatter. Judge Hargrove ran a hand through his hair, taking a moment before answering. "This project may be seen as unsettling by some. You're treading into sensitive territory. Not everyone wants to hear these stories, especially if they reveal uncomfortable truths." Clara exchanged glances with Mr. Thompson and Iris. A lump formed in her throat. "But these stories are important," she insisted. "They deserve to be told. The community needs to understand what our veterans went through." "You're right," the judge replied, a hint of empathy softening his expression. "But the reality is, there will be people who feel threatened. They might see it as bringing shame or stirring old wounds they prefer to forget. There's a risk involved in what you're trying to do. You need to be prepared for backlash." The room fell silent. Clara's mind raced. Had they thought this through fully? Facing opposition was one thing, but would it compromise their mission? Mr. Thompson spoke up, his voice steady with conviction. "We can't let fear dictate our choices. These stories belong to those who lived through them. If we run from the truth, we'll never truly honor them." "I admire your bravery," Judge Hargrove said, nodding at Mr. Thompson. "But bravery also involves planning. You must think of a strategy to navigate potential conflicts. You have to anticipate the worst while hoping for the best." Clara felt a spark of determination rise within her. "So we prepare. We get ahead of any pushback. We can't be silenced." Iris' eyes lit up. "We can gather support first, other veterans, their families, even community leaders who understand the importance of healing through honesty. We'll create a united front." The judge's expression softened slightly, as if he was suddenly seeing them as allies in a shared struggle rather than just hopeful dreamers. "It's a good plan. But remember, there may be people in positions of power who will resist this project." That was a sobering thought. Clara took a moment to absorb it. "We'll have to be strategic," she said. "Building alliances, creating community events, raising awareness. We'll need to show that the benefits of these stories outweigh the risks." "But what if those risks become personal?" Iris asked, a frown marring her brow. "What if we face threats? Or worse?" A heavy silence filled the room, and Clara could feel the anxiety ripple through each of them. It was a reality they hadn't wanted to acknowledge but now could not ignore. Clara's heart raced as she considered all the possibilities. Would they be willing to face such danger? Mr. Thompson's gaze returned to Clara's. "The stories they tell are not just about loss. They're about survival, resilience, and hope. Those narratives deserve to live in the light." The collective resolution simmered in the air like a palpable force. Clara could feel its energy wrapping around her, pushing away the fear that threatened to take root. Just as they began to discuss possible strategies, a loud banging echoed from outside the building, startling all of them. "What was that?" Iris asked, her eyes wide as they turned towards the door. Clara felt her heart pound, not just from fear, but from a growing sense of urgency. Was it merely a coincidence? Or was it a warning and omen of the challenges that awaited them? "I don't know, but we need to find out," Clara responded, her voice firm. "Whatever it is, it's time we face this together." As they stepped toward the door, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something monumental. The question loomed larger than ever: were they ready for the fight ahead? Clara pushed the door open, and the loud noise was suddenly replaced by a chilling silence. Outside, the evening sky was dark, and the air was thick with tension. The faint sounds of murmured voices drifted down the hallway, and Clara's skin prickled with unease. What awaited them out there? Iris stepped out beside her, clutching Clara's arm tightly. Should we really go out there? She whispered, her voice barely audible against the backdrop of uncertainty. Yes, Clara replied, her own fear bubbling just beneath the surface. We can't hide from this. If there are questions or concerns, we need to face them head-on. Mr. Thompson came up behind them, his expression steady but his eyes revealing a deep concern. This isn't just about us anymore. It's about every veteran whose voice deserves to be heard. We need to show we won't back down. They stepped onto the pavement, where the bright lights of the building cast long shadows. A small crowd had gathered just beyond the steps. Clara could see the faces illuminated by the glow, a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Tension hung in the air as various community members whispered among themselves, their eyes darting toward the trio. Suddenly, a woman stepped forward. Clara recognized her as Mrs. Cummings, a longtime resident and widow of a veteran. I heard you were doing something about those who served, she said, her voice clear yet shaky. But do you realize what you're opening up? You might stir things we'd rather keep buried. Clara swallowed hard, the weight of Mrs. Cummings' words crashing onto her like a wave. I understand your concerns, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. But these stories are important. They need to be told for us to heal. To remember. Another voice cut through the air. A young man stepped into view, arms crossed defiantly. You don't understand. Some of us just want to forget the war. It's not as easy as you think. Clara felt her heart sink. This was the very pushback Judge Hargrove had warned about. I get that this is hard, believe me. But if we don't confront the past, we can never truly move on. We owe it to our loved ones to tell their stories, Clara said, feeling a surge of energy as she spoke. The crowd murmured. A few nodded, while others remained stoic, weighing her words. Clara felt a trickle of hope. Perhaps they were ready to listen, but Mrs. Cummings shook her head. It's not just about you, dear. What if you bring shame upon their memory? What if painful truths tear this community apart? Clara stood taller, her pulse racing. But what if those painful truths bring us together? What if they help us heal? Mr. Thompson took a step forward, raising his hands in a gesture of unity. We're not here to harm. We're here to honor. The stories will be told with dignity, with respect. Each one has its own lesson, its own beauty. We want to create a space for healing through honesty. A man in the back spoke up, his voice shaky but louder now. It sounds good in theory, but do you have plans? How can we be sure that this won't just uncover wounds without healing? Iris took a breath, summoning her confidence. We want to include everyone. We'll hold community meetings. We'll have veterans share their stories in their own words. It's about understanding each other's pain and strength. The crowd shifted slightly, and Clara could see expressions softening. A flicker of understanding passed between them. Maybe they could find common ground. But doubt still hung like a shadow over the discussion. Please, give us a chance, Clara urged, her voice breaking ever so slightly. Let us show you the power in these stories. And if you find it's not what we said, then we'll stop. We promise. Just as she finished, a low rumble of thunder roared overhead, causing everyone to look up. Dark clouds began to swirl, and the first drops of rain began to fall. Maybe this is a sign, Mr. Thompson murmured, looking toward the sky. A sign that change is coming. As the rain began to pour, a woman stepped forward once more, eyes gleaming with emotion. I want to believe, she began, and Clara felt a sense of urgency swell in her chest. Could they turn this storm into a rallying call? Could they find hope in the rain? Clara reached out, feeling a newfound connection. With the clouds swirling above them, Clara wondered if they were truly ready for what lay ahead. Would the rain wash away their fears, or would it drown their dreams before they ever had the chance to take flight? The rain fell heavier now, splattering against the pavement and mingling with the whispers of the crowd. Clara felt the chills seep into her bones, but the warmth of the faces around her filled her with a flicker of courage. Mrs. Cummings, her expression softening, took a hesitant step forward. You really think these stories can bridge the gaps? Yes, Clara replied, desperation threading through her voice. As long as we listen to one another, we can find healing. Iris slipped in closer, nudging Clara's side. There's strength in vulnerability. The way Iris spoke made Clara's heart swell. Her friend had always been a beacon of courage, even in the toughest moments. Another woman raised her hand, her face crumpling with emotion. I lost my brother in the war. I understand the importance of remembering. But it hurts, you know. I do, Clara said, the sincerity of her words sinking into the space between them. It's not easy to face these memories, but keeping them bottled up doesn't make them go away. We can face them together. A few heads nodded. The rain continued to pour, a symphony of tiny drums against the ground, revitalizing the air with life. Some community members, once skeptical, were beginning to exchange glances of curiosity. A soft-spoken elderly man stepped forward, clutching a worn hat to his chest. I served in the Vietnam War. I never spoke about it to anyone. Maybe he paused, as if the weight of old secrets rested on his shoulders. Maybe it's time. There it was, the first spark of openness, the crack in the wall that had stood firm for years. Clara felt a rush of excitement, spurred by his words. Yes, that's exactly it. Your story could inspire others. Mrs. Cummings watched him, her eyes wet with unshed tears. What if the sharing opens old wounds? She asked, trembling slightly. Then we will heal them together, Clara said fiercely. We'll create a safe space. One of understanding, not judgment. Your story matters, every single one. You are not alone. As she spoke, the crowd began to shift closer, the rain drenching them but drawing them inward. A small murmur of agreement rose, punctuated by a mix of emotions, fear, relief, and a sliver of hope. I lost my brother too, another man confessed, stepping forward. He came back changed. We never understood. I wish we had talked about it. Clara's heart ached for him. You don't have to bear that burden alone any longer. Let us talk. Let us listen. The heaviness in the air felt lighter now, as if the rain was washing away the doubts and fears that clung to their hearts. A single voice from the back shouted, I'm in. Let us do this. With that, one by one, they began to step forward, drawn by the possibility of connection, of truth. Clara felt her pulse quicken, excitement flowing through her veins at the sight of them coming together. What had once felt like a pledge of love and remembrance was transforming into a rallying cry for unity. However, just as Clara felt a sense of triumph swell within her, a flash of lightning lit the sky, illuminating the worried faces around her. The thunder that followed rolled through the air, louder now, more powerful. And deep inside her, doubt wormed its way back in. What if this storm, instead of bringing clarity, would drown their voices and silence their stories? Clara searched the eyes of her companions, all now soaking wet, yet filled with growing resolve. They were willing to take the first steps into a storm of emotions. But could they truly face what was to come? As the dark clouds loomed above them, Clara had one burning question in her heart. Could they withstand the storm together? Would the rain be their curse or their blessing? The rain poured, drenching Clara and her newfound allies, yet it felt different now. It was no longer a barrier, but a catalyst for change. The whispers of doubt faded into the background as more voices rose up, sharing their stories, their pain, their hope. I never talked about it, the elderly man said, his fingers gripping his hat. Not to my family, not to anyone, but I think it's time. Clara felt a lump in her throat. Yes, let us honor those feelings. Let us create a space for these stories to come alive. As if ignited by her words, more members of the crowd stepped forward. The rain pelted them, but it was as if the storm was uniting them in shared vulnerability. Voices echoed louder, weaving a beautiful tapestry of experiences they had all carried too long. That a young woman who had lost her brother joined in, her voice tremulous but steady. I'd like to help tell his story. He was brave, even when he wasn't sure how to be. He needs to be remembered. Clara's heart swelled. The shift happening around her felt monumental, like the unfolding of a long-awaited sunrise. Together, we can make this meaningful. This connection can build something extraordinary. Suddenly, Mrs. Cummings stepped close, studied the faces of those around her, and found strength. If the truth can help us heal, if sharing can lighten this burden, I'll tell my husband's story. Gasps of surprise rippled through the crowd. Your voices matter, Clara exclaimed, energy coursing through her. This is more than a project, it's a movement. We're not just sharing memories, we're building a bridge to understanding each other. The rain intensified, but amidst the downpour, Clara felt warmth begin to blossom, like a fire igniting within her chest. They were ready to face the tempest together, allowing the thunder above to mirror the strength rising within them. As the crowd began to share stories, Mr. Thompson's voice emerged, steady and strong. These tales may unearth pain, but they will also uncover resilience. Every veteran's story is a testament to the human spirit. It's time we turn these memories into a legacy. Clara couldn't believe it. Each word he spoke carried the weight and wisdom of a man who had witnessed darkness but still believed in the light. The murmur turned into a roar of agreement, voices intertwining each story a thread in their community fabric, forming a stronger bond. Glimmers of hope echoed around them, and the rain felt like a cleansing ritual, washing away the hesitations that had held them captive. Clara saw villagers nodding in solidarity, hearts opening to the thought of healing. Tears mingled with the raindrops, each a release of weight they had carried for far too long. Then, Clara spotted Iris, standing on the outer edges of the crowd, her face glowing with pride. Clara knew this was more than just about Mr. Thompson or the veterans. It was about becoming a family, redefined, fully embracing their shared stories. "Let us meet regularly," Clara suggested, her voice cutting through the downpour. "Let us keep this momentum alive. We will document the stories we've shared. We'll create a community that values these experiences." "Yes." Voices rose around her, a unified chorus, hope blending with determination. They were ready to stand against whatever darkness had kept them apart, ready to confront the past, no matter how messy or heavy it felt. As they exchanged contact information and ideas for upcoming meetings, the clouds above began to dissipate, releasing golden rays of sun that broke through the darkness and lit up the drenched streets. Clara took a deep breath, a smile creeping onto her face as she saw hope gleaming in the eyes of those around her. This wasn't just about one man's wish anymore. It had transformed into a beacon of understanding and healing, a journey toward acceptance, a community reborn. Clara's heart swelled with gratitude. They faced the unknown together, and it would be worth it. They were crafting a new legacy with open hearts, ready to honor every sacrifice, whether spoken or unspoken. And as she stood there, surrounded by kindred spirits, she realized their greatest battles had already begun to forge profound connections that would last a lifetime. They were ready to lift their stories out of silence and into the world, transforming pain into power and doubt into hope. "Let us honor them," she said aloud, feeling each word resonate deep within her soul. Together, they all held that promise tight, their spirits soaring as the sun peaked over the horizon, illuminating their new path ahead. If you felt inspired by Clara's journey and the power of community, you need to subscribe now to our channel. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let the world know these stories matter. Drop a comment to share your thoughts and feelings on this powerful ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this incredible transformation. Let us keep the momentum going.